welcome to the first episode of season 13 of ECCB Connect. Although we have to practice social distancing and we at the ECCB are telecommuting, that is, we are working from home, we are still connecting with you using conferencing technology. On this week's program, we look at the impact of COVID-19 on small businesses and what small businesses can do to take advantage of the opportunities that will present themselves post-COVID-19. Stay with us. We'll continue in a moment. Gentlemen, welcome to you all to ECCB Connects. Today, of course, we'll be discussing an important topic, the impact of COVID-19 on small businesses and what small businesses can do to position themselves to take advantage of the opportunities that will present themselves when the economy starts to rebound. We have Simone Murray, who is manager of Business Logistics, Inc. in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She has been working closely with small businesses since 2000. We have Mr. Gard St. Bernard. He's a senior project officer of the Small Business Development Fund at the Grenada Development Bank. And we have a small business owner, Mr. Toussaint Tatum. He's owner of Tatum Taxi and Tours in St. Kitts and Nevis.
St. Kitts.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Tatum, we'll start with you. COVID-19, we have seen the impact on tourism, especially. All small business, well, most small businesses have been affected, but we've seen the impact on tourism, and you work directly in the tourism, being a taxi and tour operator. How has COVID-19 affected you and your business?
I would say it has have a very tremendous impact on myself, knowing that it's the main part of my livelihood. There are no ships coming in, there are no flights coming in, and at the moment there is not much to do. But I'm coping, and I have already have plans in place for the recovery of the economy, which would probably have me catch up on some delayed bills, etc., due to the COVID-19 effect.
Simone, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, business continues as usual. In some of our other member countries, we've had full 24-hour lockdowns and partial lockdown, but in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you've not had any of that so far. So how has that affected small business? I know, for example, the Minibus Association, although the government had not put any specific restrictions in place, they had put some self-imposed restrictions in terms of how they will operate and hours of operation. But generally, what has it been for small businesses?
The tourism sector has been affected. Even though we did not have a complete close down, most of our hotels, particularly in the Grenadines, our dive shops, a lot of cafes, restaurants, they actually closed their doors because nobody was actually coming. So although our ports were open, etc., the other islands, other countries, there was no real access out. So we have had the small businesses has been affected, even though there wasn't a complete lockdown. So it has now spilled off into, like, for example, the retail sector,
Yes.
The food and beverage sector. So everything is interconnected.
Yes.
So the private sector themselves have put in place certain measures to combat COVID-19, whether it be decrease in opening hours, and also the public sector, the employees, public servants they are on rotation as well.
Grenada has had a different situation where you have had days of total lockdown and days of partial lockdown. What sort of impact have you seen on the small businesses in Grenada?
So yes, Grenada has been on 24-hour lockdown. We've had it for several days in the month of April. And what would have happened, what we would have seen happen to a lot of the small businesses is that they would have suffered significant loss. Let's take, for example, in the agricultural sector. Initially, a lot of the farmers were not even allowed to go out and attend to their flocks, attend to their crops. And so some of them would have had significant loss, keeping in mind we're in the dry season as well. The fisher folks initially were not able to go out and ply their trade. So a lot of the small businesses were actually grounded. And that's apart from the initial closing of a lot of the tourism-based businesses, with the airport being shut down totally to international travel and regional travel, the cruise ship industry being closed mid-March, I believe it was. So apart from the initial effect with the tourism sector, the small businesses for example, that the agriculture, the fishing, these would have felt it even more with the total lockdown.
We've seen it's the same across, whether you've had lockdown, partial lockdown, total lockdown, no lockdown. Yeah. We have seen the impact on small businesses across the region. As we know, small businesses are sort of the lifeblood of the economy, and how widespread it is. Because Simone mentioned, while certain areas were not locked down or directly affected, you have seen the spill-off effects on the other sectors. So now let's look at small businesses and what they can do to prepare themselves to deal with challenges like these. How can a small business be prepared for something like this?
It really depends on where you were before COVID, because every small business, depending on what sector you're in, you will have to look at this differently. So there's no one size fits all. So where were you before COVID? Did you take the time to plan your business? Did you have budgets, etc.? Did you keep records? And I think this is one of the areas where we fail as small businesses, where persons they don't take the time to keep records, know what's happening to their business, plan ahead. But this is essential. You have to know where you are in order to know how you're gonna go forward. So what do you require as a business? How much sales do you require as a business to be able to just meet all your monthly commitments? This is where you have to start from. Then you look at what is absolutely necessary for me to continue to survive. What kind of fat does the business have? How can I cut this? These are some of the things that we need to look at.
Tatum, when we spoke with you earlier, you said that despite what's been happening with the slowdown in the tourism industry, you feel sort of comfortable. So it means that, when I'm thinking, you have done what Simone proposed in terms of planning ahead, budgeting, and so on. What steps did you take, or were you taking before COVID-19 to put you in the position where you are right now?
I have over the years been observing, and with the knowledge that the tourism industry is a very fragile industry. Anytime, anything can go wrong. And as the media has been saying all along, and I totally agree, after this COVID is over, they will not be back to normal. It will take a considerable amount of time before we can actually get back to where we were. For the losses that we have had in our small businesses, we have to therefore be able to catch up on what we have lost to be able to get to where we want to get to, like my colleague was just saying a while ago. And it takes a lot of planning, a lot of putting ideas together to be able to be ahead of the competition, to be able to sustain yourself. And that is what mostly I've done throughout most of the times.
Garth, you have been working with small businesses for some time now. What have you noticed in terms of practices with small businesses? Simone mentioned the key things that need to be done, planning, budgeting, and so on. Small businesses, have they been really doing this? Have they been planning and preparing themselves?
The answer to that is no. What the COVID-19 would have done is exposed a lot of the management operations of these small businesses. And it's clear that a lot of these small businesses which operate in the informal system, they don't do this. I must applaud Mr. Toussaint because it's clear that he is planning ahead. But for the majority of small businesses, we have seen that they don't have a cash flow, they don't manage their cash flow. As Ms. Murray would have indicated, they don't know how much sales they need daily to say they can at least break even. The government is willing to offer some assistance, but they are operating outside of the whole government system. They are unregistered, they are just doing nothing on their side. So they're not even able to apply and be approved for these sort of assistance that the government is offering at this time.
You touched on a key point there, registration. So in Grenada, what's the situation there with small businesses and registration?
A lot of the small businesses don't want to do that because in their mind, once you register with Inland Revenue, they're going to come and tax you, all right? Mm-hmm. And then the next thing is they don't keep records, so they cannot even substantiate what their income is when the month comes, what their revenue is. So they just neglect to register their business. They neglect to keep proper records because the thinking is, I don't want to pay the government any taxes on the little monies that I'm making.
Simone, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, what's the situation there? Are small businesses registering?
In St. Vincent and the Grenadines as well, we have a lot of small businesses operating who are just not registered. There are some who are in fact registered, but just don't comply with the laws of keeping records, filing tax returns, etc. They only find it important when they need to access a loan from the commercial banks or the development bank. But they have to know or be cognizant of the fact that, once you're getting into business, these are the steps that you have to take in order to be successful. And part of it is registration, record keeping, planning, etc.
Okay. I just want to stick with registration for a bit more, given that it's such an important element. Mr. Tatum, I'll go with you. Are you registered?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so share your experience then. Since other small businesses have this fear of registering, should they be fearful?
There should be no fear. I've been registered since I became an operator, which is compulsory. I don't know how much the law is enforced, but it's compulsory that as a business person, you register with the government Inland Revenue Department. I don't know how many persons are doing that, but I have done so. And it works for me very, very, very well because in accessing loans from like the development bank or the commercial banks, as a registered person, you have to provide your certificate of operating a business, which would see that you're a credible person, and thus making it easy for you to obtain loans to advance your business.
So you will encourage your fellow small business operators to register?
Of course, it's very important that you do so. It has advantages, and I can only see advantages in registering. There are no disadvantages, I would say. on my behalf.
Okay. So we've heard that small businesses across the region, and Simon, you have seen it because you've worked throughout the OECS with small businesses, and you've seen how they operate, some areas of weakness, some areas of strength. But in terms of, so the key thing is that small businesses are not taking the necessary steps to really make their business grow and become viable, such as planning ahead. We just touched on registration, planning ahead, budgeting, keeping records. What assistance is available to small businesses then for them to take these steps?
Here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you have the Center for Enterprise Development, which, once you sit with a business development officer, they take you through the necessary steps in terms of registration, what you need to do. They even run several small business courses. I know that is also the case with GIDC in Grenada. It's mirrored somewhat the same. And there are a few small business programs around in terms of accessing loans, etc.
Gav, what advice do you have for small businesses in terms of ensuring that they set their houses in order, plan, budget, keep records, register?
Mm-hmm. So my recommendation for small businesses at this time, they need to look for the different opportunities that are presenting themselves even during these times. So they might need to diversify their business, right? So that's something that they would need to look into. Training, they need to ensure that they are trained in managing their business. They need to look at their business as just a little hustle on the side, but they need to know that it's a business they are operating. Business is operated to make a profit. They also should want their business to grow, right? So these are things they need to look at. Also, some might need concessionary financing, so they need to start to speak to their financial organizations, whether it be to renegotiate current loans that they have, the rates at which the interest rates or so, monthly payments. Also, probably getting additional financing at this time. So they need to speak to their financial institution as well.
So COVID-19, we expect it won't last forever. We expect the economies of our region to bounce back at some point. How can small businesses then position themselves for the opportunities that may arise post-COVID-19?
One of the things that they need to do is to diversify. What are we doing now? What can we do better? What skills do we have in-house that we are not fully utilizing? How can we come out of this better? We can use this time to plan. We can use this time to negotiate with our financial institutions. We can use this time to get straight. So you're not registered before COVID. You're looking at the advantages of being registered. Go ahead and register your business. Even your clients, some of them may also be going through a struggle under COVID. How can you reposition your product or service to be able to capture what are the needs of your clients while offering them concessionary rates or payment plans, etc., in order for you to continue surviving this whole COVID pandemic?
As you mentioned that, I can think of a couple of small businesses that I am now seeing advertising online, and they are doing deliveries. So whereas you would have had to go out to them, they are now offering to come out to you with pre-packaged stuff, and they are meeting customers that way. So you really need to take this time to think, get outside of the normal operations of things as you knew it, because even coming out of COVID-19, things will not be the same as it was prior to COVID-19. So you really need to put on your thinking caps, because the ball will start back rolling, right? So you need to be ready for when that happens. Your business needs to be ready.
Mr. Tatum, are you ready for the comeback?
I am. I think I am. When I started my business at first, after I had settled into the business of taxi and tour operating, I established a website. I'm on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, some TripAdvisor. So I'm ready. I'm more than ready. I'm already getting bookings, and it's a matter of getting yourself in position. And that's, as my former colleagues had said earlier too, one of the things is to diversify. Yes. You have to think of other options. Apart from my taxi tour operating business, one of the things that is sustaining me at the moment is a product that I make at my home called, I make some ice pops on the sticks, and I branded them as Tatum's Ice Pops, and my sales are very, very good. Right now I would say the demand is greater than the supply. One of the reasons for sustaining. So You've
already started to diversify.
I'm just diversifying. Yes, I am. So it's working for me so far.
Simone and Gav, any final words before we wrap up?
Well, I would just like to say that small businesses need to take advantage of any stimulus being offered by their respective governments. They need to know what is available out there, so do your research. They also need to look at speaking with their financial institution to see what sort of breaks are available in terms of delaying loan payments, or not that I would subscribe to delaying loan payments unless you really, really have to, because interest would continue to accumulate. But in terms of access to finance, how much finance you would need to really take you through this period, because cash is king with all small businesses.
Well, the Small Business Development Fund, we are here to work with small businesses to provide lending, right? I must applaud the government, because as part of the COVID-19 recovery, they would have given us in excess of $5 million additional. So this is primarily for small business lending at concessionary rates. So it's not doom and gloom for small businesses at this time, right? As indicated earlier, they need to review their current business model, look for the opportunities that are going to present themselves, look at diversifying their business, right? And have that chat with your lending institution. Also training. It's clear that a lot of our business owners and operators need training. So we have the GIDC, Grenada Industrial Development Corporation, which they can have that discussion with for training purposes. Yeah.
As you mentioned that throughout the region, there are small business development units in each country that small businesses can go to. Either small business development units or within commercial banks, or you have development banks, not in all, but in most, you have development banks, and within the commercial banks, you have small business development units. So small businesses do have options. They have avenues for obtaining the information they need, obtaining the assistance they need. Mr. Tatum, any final word for your fellow small business operators?
Yes, I would say, as again, my two colleagues have just mentioned, training is very, very important. And putting into place what you have learned at those training sessions are very, very important. Every year, the tourism department will have a course it's a requirement. Some do, some don't. And it's a certificated course. So when I go to that course, I display my certificates on my websites, and people will look at those and see that there is some credibility here. They can, this guy is reliable, he's registered, he's complying with the regulations, and it put me in a very, very positive position, I will say, in the past and for the future that I foresee in this business. Thank you.
Yes, and I must make a plug here. We at the ECCB, we also offer small business workshops, entrepreneurship courses, and we have recently rolled out our micro business simulation game. We have done it in St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada. We just came back from Montserrat, I think in February. We had planned to move on to Dominica and Anguilla, but of course, COVID. But it's a course that we're rolling out throughout the region. So I encourage small businesses, whenever we advertise, make use of this opportunity to obtain information on how to manage your business effectively. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you all very much for speaking with us on ECCB Connect and sharing your expertise, your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To view any episode of ECCB Connects anytime, any place at your convenience, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn at ECCB Connects.
We've come to the end of this week's episode of ECCB Connects. We at the ECCB salute all our frontline workers for the great sacrifice they're making to help keep us all safe. We encourage you to do your part by observing the health protocols of social and physical distancing and washing your hands properly. Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for another program.